Before the world came to know Sofronio Vasquez, his life moved in a quieter way. His days were shaped by simple routines, the kind that do not draw attention but hold a steady sense of comfort. He lived in spaces where things felt familiar, where people recognized him not for his voice on a stage, but for who he was in everyday life. In those early years, music was not something he performed for large crowds. It was something personal. It lived in small moments, soft singing, quiet practice, and feelings that did not need to be explained. His voice grew naturally, shaped more by emotion than by ambition. There was no pressure to be perfect. There was only the quiet joy of expressing something real. Life around him felt close. The people he spent time with were part of his daily rhythm. Conversations were easy, and time did not feel rushed. There was space to pause, to sit with thoughts, and to understand what truly mattered. That kind of environment creates a strong sense of belonging, one that does not need to be questioned. As he spent more time with music, something inside him slowly began to shift. It was not loud or sudden. It felt more like a gentle pull, guiding him towards something beyond the life he had always known. This feeling did not take away from what he had. It simply opened the idea that there could be more waiting for him. Stepping toward that more was not an easy choice. It meant leaving behind the comfort of what was familiar. It meant stepping into uncertainty, where the outcome was not clear. Even when hope is strong, change carries its own kind of weight. There is always something that stays behind when a person moves forward. As he began to follow this path, the quiet moments that once filled his days started to become less frequent. The life he knew did not disappear all at once, but it slowly moved further into the background. New experiences began to take its place, bringing both excitement and adjustment. There is something deeply human in that kind of change. Growth often asks a person to move away from what feels safe, even when that safety holds meaning. For him, the early part of his journey was not just about finding his voice. It was also about learning what it means to carry parts of the past while stepping into something new. And even as his world began to expand, a quiet feeling remained beneath it all. The sense of closeness he once had did not fully leave, but it began to change in ways that were hard to notice at first. The feeling that stays gently in the background is this: how much of that early warmth and simplicity was able to stay with him as everything else began to grow? When Sofronio Vasquez stepped into a larger stage, life began to move in a very different way. The quiet spaces he once knew were slowly replaced by brighter lights and louder surroundings. There were more people, more voices, and more moments where he was being seen and heard all at once. Being part of The Voice brought him into a world that felt both exciting and unfamiliar. It opened doors that once seemed far away. At the same time, it asked more from him than ever before. Each performance carried a sense of importance. Each step forward felt like it mattered in a new and deeper way. There was a rhythm to this new life, but it was not the same as before. Days were filled with rehearsals, preparation, and constant movement. Time began to feel more structured, shaped by schedules rather than personal choice. Moments that once came naturally now had to fit into a plan. With more people watching, there was also a different kind of connection forming. Many people began to know his voice, his style, and his presence. But this kind of knowing was not the same as the quiet, personal connections he once had. It was wider, reaching more people, but it did not always carry the same depth. In the middle of all this, his personal space began to change. The simple act of being alone, of having time without expectation, became something less common. Even quiet moments could feel different, shaped by the awareness that his life was now part of something bigger than himself. There was pride in what he was achieving. That feeling was real and meaningful. He had worked towards something, and now he was living inside it. But alongside that pride, there was also a quiet adjustment happening. It was not always easy to notice, but it was there. The pace of life had shifted, and with it, the way he experienced everyday things. Small moments that once felt natural now carried a different weight. Even rest could feel like a pause between responsibilities rather than something fully his own. This kind of transition is not only about success. It is also about learning how to exist in a space that is always moving, always asking for more. It requires a person to adapt, to find new ways of holding onto what feels real while stepping into something that is constantly changing. As the spotlight grew brighter, it did not just show his talent. It also reshaped the way he lived his life, one day at a time. And within that brightness, there remained a quiet space that was harder to define. What gently lingers beneath it all is this feeling. Within all the attention and movement, did he still have a place where he could simply be himself, without needing to perform or be seen? As time moved forward, the life of Sofronio Vasquez began to take on a new shape. From the outside, it looked full and complete. The spaces he now moved through were larger, more refined, and carefully built around the success he had worked so hard to reach. There was a sense of comfort in this life, a visible sign of how far he had come. His days were now filled with opportunities that once felt distant. Travel became part of his routine, taking him to places he may have only imagined before. Performances, meetings, and creative work shaped his schedule. Each day carried purpose, and each step forward reflected the path he had chosen. To others, this kind of life can look like a dream. It holds beauty, movement, and a sense of achievement that is easy to admire. There is no doubt that his efforts led him here, and that the life he now lives is the result of years of dedication. But even a life that looks full from the outside can feel complex on the inside. The pace is faster now, leaving less room for stillness. Moments that once came naturally, like sitting quietly or spending unplanned time, are now shaped by structure. Even rest can feel scheduled, placed carefully between responsibilities. The simplicity of his earlier life has slowly been replaced by something more organized. There is stability in this, but it is a different kind of stability. It is built on planning, expectations, and the need to keep moving forward. In many ways, this is what success asks for. There are also quiet adjustments that come with this kind of life. The things that once brought ease, familiar places, simple routines, close daily connections, may now feel further away. They have not disappeared, but they exist in a different form, shaped by time and distance. Even within comfort, there can be moments that feel less grounded. It is not about something being missing in a clear way, but more about a subtle shift. The feeling of enough becomes harder to define when life is always moving toward the next thing. Still, there is meaning in what he has built. There is value in the journey, and in the life he continues to shape each day. But within that life, there is also a quiet space where reflection lives. A place where he can look back and feel the contrast between where he started and where he is now. And in that reflection, a gentle thought remains. A life can be full in many ways, yet still leave room for a different kind of longing. What softly lingers is this. Within all the comfort and success, can that same quiet sense of ease he once knew still find a place in the life he lives today? As life continued to change for Sofronio Vasquez, the connections that once felt close and constant began to shift in quiet ways. It did not happen all at once. There was no single moment where everything changed. Instead, it happened slowly, shaped by time, distance, and the new rhythm of his life. The people who were once part of his everyday routine were still there, but not in the same way. Conversations became less frequent. Visits became harder to plan. Even when there was care and effort, the space between moments began to grow. It was not about losing connection, but about experiencing it differently. There is a certain kind of distance that comes not from choice, but from change. As his life expanded, it began to move in a direction that others around him were not always part of. While he traveled, worked, and followed new opportunities, many of the people he once spent time with remained in familiar places, living their own steady lives. This difference in paths can create a quiet gap. It is not always something that can be fixed with intention alone. Even when two people care deeply, the way they share time and space begins to change. Being present becomes more difficult, even when the desire to stay connected remains strong. There is also a feeling that comes with realizing that life does not move in the same way for everyone. While one person moves forward into new spaces, others may stay rooted where things feel known and stable. Both paths hold value, but they do not always meet in the same way they once did. For him, this created moments of reflection. He could still feel the importance of those early connections, the warmth of shared time, and the sense of belonging that once came so easily. But now, those feelings existed alongside a new reality, one where time had to be managed and where presence could not always be given in the same way. Even when he returned to familiar places or spoke with familiar voices, something felt slightly different. Not distant in a cold way, but changed in a quiet and natural way. The closeness was still there, but it lived in memory as much as in the present. There is a kind of emotional weight in understanding that some forms of closeness cannot stay exactly the same. They evolve, shaped by the paths people take and the lives they build. And within that understanding, a gentle feeling remains. It is not heavy, but it is present, a soft awareness of what has shifted over time. What stays quietly open is this: how does a person hold on to the people and moments that matter most when life keeps moving them further away? Living in the public eye has slowly changed how Sofronio Vasquez experiences even the most ordinary parts of life. What once felt private and natural now often exists in a space where it can be seen, noticed, or shared. This shift is not always loud, but it is constant. Simple moments, walking, resting, or spending quiet time, can feel different when there is always a sense of being observed. Even when no one is physically present, the awareness remains. It becomes part of the way he moves through the world. This does not take away from who he is, but it adds a layer that was not there before. Privacy, something that once came without effort, now requires intention. It has to be protected and created, rather than simply lived. Finding time to be alone, to think freely, or to feel without outside influence becomes more important. At the same time, it can also become more difficult. There is also a quiet question of identity that comes with this kind of life. The version of him that people see is often shaped by performance, by public moments, and by the expectations that come with being known. This version is real, but it is not the whole picture. Beyond what others see, there are still parts of him that remain personal. These are the quieter parts: his thoughts, his reflections, and the way he understands his own journey. Holding on to these parts requires care. It means creating space where he does not have to meet expectations, where he can simply exist without needing to present himself in any way. Balancing these two sides, the public and the private, is not always easy. It is something that changes over time, depending on the demands of his work and the pace of his life. Some days may feel more balanced than others. Some moments may feel more grounded, while others may feel more distant. Even in a life that is shared with many, there is still a need for something that belongs only to him. That need does not disappear with success. If anything, it becomes more important. There is a quiet strength in trying to protect that space, even when the world continues to look in. It is not about stepping away from what he has built, but about staying connected to who he is within it. And as he continues to move forward, this balance remains something he is still learning. What gently stays unresolved is this: can those private parts of his life remain untouched and real, even as the world around him continues to watch and expect more? Success has brought many visible changes to the life of Sofronio Vasquez. It has opened doors, created new opportunities, and allowed him to build a life that reflects years of effort and belief in his path. From the outside, these changes are easy to see. They show growth, progress, and achievement. But success also carries a quieter side, one that is not always as visible. It asks for time, energy, and focus. It often requires a person to move forward quickly, sometimes faster than they have time to fully understand. In that movement, certain things begin to shift. The life he lives now is different from the one he started with. Some parts of his earlier life, simple routines, unplanned moments, and the ease of being fully present, cannot exist in the same way anymore. They have not disappeared completely, but they no longer shape his days in the same steady way they once did. There is a quiet feeling that comes with this kind of change. It is not regret, and it is not loss in a heavy sense. It is more like an awareness, a recognition that moving forward often means leaving something behind, even when that step is necessary and meaningful. Memories of earlier days may return in small, gentle ways. A familiar place, a certain kind of silence, or a simple moment can bring back a feeling that is hard to fully recreate. These memories do not take away from what he has built. Instead, they add depth to it, reminding him of the path that led him here. There is also a kind of reflection that grows over time. It is not only about what has been gained, but also about what has changed along the way. Success can be measured in many ways, but not all of them are visible. Some are felt quietly, in moments of pause and thought. Still, there is meaning in this journey. There is growth, learning, and a deeper understanding of what truly matters. These things often come from both the gains and the changes, not from one alone. The life he lives now continues to evolve. It holds both the present and the memory of the past, existing side by side in a way that is not always easy to explain. And within that space, there is a gentle awareness that remains. Success has given him much, but it has also reshaped the way he experiences the world around him. What quietly lingers is this: can the life he has built now ever fully hold the same simple moments that once came so naturally? Or will those always remain something he carries in memory? As time continues to move forward, Sofronio Vasquez begins to shape a life that brings together both where he started and where he is now. This process is not something that happens all at once. It grows slowly, through small choices and quiet moments of understanding. The pace of his life may still be fast, filled with work and responsibility, but within that pace, he starts to create space. These are not always large or noticeable changes. Sometimes, they are simple, taking a moment to pause, to breathe, or to step away from the noise around him. In those moments, he finds something familiar, something that reminds him of the life he once knew. Balance, for him, does not mean returning to the past. It means learning how to carry parts of it into the present. The quiet comfort, the sense of closeness, and the feeling of being grounded. These are things he begins to rebuild in new ways. They may not look the same, but they still hold meaning. There is also a growing awareness of what truly matters to him. Success, while important, is no longer the only measure of his life. There is value in connection, in stillness, and in moments that are not defined by achievement. These realizations come gently, shaped by experience rather than force. He may begin to choose time more carefully, deciding where to give his energy and where to step back. This kind of awareness allows him to protect parts of himself that might otherwise be lost in the constant movement of his world. Even in a life that is shared with many, there can still be moments that belong only to him. These moments help him stay connected to who he is, beyond what others see. They create a sense of balance that is not perfect, but real. This balance continues to change as his life evolves. Some days may feel more steady, while others may feel uncertain. But within that change, there is growth. There is an ongoing effort to bring together success and simplicity, presence and progress. And in this effort, there is a quiet kind of peace that begins to take shape. It may not be the same as before, but it carries its own meaning. What remains gently open is this: will this new balance continue to grow into something that feels complete, or will there always be a small space where the past and present never fully meet?